Welcome, everybody, to the big show. Today, we're going to talk about how to eliminate comebacks, the silent killer.
Like anthrax?
Most of this is going to be about comebacks, but there's some other fun in there too. But that and much, much more coming up on this edition of Service Drive Revolution. You know what my biggest concern is this summer, Christian?
That I'm going to run into with your own jet ski?
No, but interestingly enough, it does involve a jet ski.
Okay.
There is a new version of the jet skis that has 325 horsepower, and the ones that we have are 300 horsepower. And what if somebody on the lake has the one with 325 and is faster than us? Like all summer, we had the fastest jet skis on that lake. And there's a lot of jet skis on that lake. That's a big lake.
Yeah. Did you see the kids flipping and all that stuff?
Yeah, but they're not as fast.
Do we know that?
Those are the toy ones. Yeah.
Yeah. Those kids did some pretty cool stuff with those jet
We're
skis.
too old for that. We just
For
go
sure.
fast in a straight line.
Even when you're not supposed to.
Cranking heavy metal.
Morgan Wallen. Morgan was a...
Yeah, there's more
a
country
favorite,
music than
yeah.
heavy metal.
I've really been getting into...
You know what a great jet ski song is? Drift and Die by Puddle of Mud.
Oh, yeah.
That's one of those songs that you end up like when you're in the car and you're like singing it and then you realize people are just looking at you.
Yeah.
Forgot it, thoughts of yesterday. As I see.
I cannot
past.
undo the connection between Puddle of Mud and Hardy.
There's definitely an influence there.
Yeah, for sure. How's your mom doing?
Oh man.
Did I strike a chord?
Mom had surgery. Mom had surgery on her ticker, her heart,
Yeah.
right? So they crack you open for that. It's pretty brutal. Big buildup going to it. Scary.
Yeah, how many months from the time they said they need to do the surgery to the time that the surgery happened? Was that, it felt like forever.
Oh my gosh, I don't know how much of this I should talk about. Well, I don't know if you remember this, but so she's going through all the tests, and then they realize, oh no, this is bad. We need to perform surgery. The day they gave her to perform surgery was the day that we were filming the marketing stuff for the new leadership book,
Yes, I
which
remember.
people are flying in to do that.
Yeah, it was a production.
And we paid for it already, kind of.
Yes.
And so she wanted me to be there, which I
course.
wanted to be there.
Yeah.
And so she moved the date.
Without you knowing? Or were you kind of privy to that?
Well, she just said she's going to try to move the date. And
Yeah.
then she called me and said, I got a new date, which was
It's right around
maybe the
Valentine's
following
Day,
week.
wasn't it?
No, it was like right after because
Yeah.
I left. It was like the next week or whatever. So it's a scary thing, you know,
Yes.
especially for her. You gotta get a bunch of stuff because she can't, you know, she's got to have certain furniture that, I don't know. It's that whole process is fascinating. Going to the hospital for surgery, they do so many things right and so many things wrong.
But it could be easily better, right?
It's definitely not designed around the anxiety of the person who's about to have surgery.
Yeah, I remember you telling me that it was way more about the CYA part of it.
Yeah,
than-
they're just so worried about getting sued. It's sign this, that, you know, but there's no bedside manner really whatsoever.
As a matter
And
of fact, the more you
the
sign
people that
stuff,
work there are miserable.
Yeah, but the more stuff you sign, the more nervous you would get.
Hospitals are depressing.
Yeah.
You know what so I'm sitting in that waiting room for days on end, right? They come over the PA with this thing every time somebody dies. It's so morbid.
Yeah.
And like a priest comes over the PA and prays, and they play this thing. It's like I don't know. It's depressing. It's a depressing place. So the people that work there are kind of depressed. Like, people that are nurses or school teachers, like, bless them that they can handle that.
Yeah.
But so then she has it, and then she's had to go back. So she was back in the hospital for a little while. You could say it's a comeback, I guess.
It feels like a comeback.
It's definitely, and there's so many different opinions, and yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to say about it. It's not great.
I pray for her every day during the dinner prayer.
I can imagine that prayer.
It's long.
You go through her whole childhood like you do dinner. Like, dear Lord Jesus, we'd like to bless this Ben's white rice made in Indiana and the salt, but it's sea salt, Lord Jesus. It's not regular table salt.
Sometimes I go through the overall, like the addition of thiamine to the meal.
Yeah, all of
impressive.
that. You gotta, because they say that God knows everything, but maybe not. Maybe you're not leaving it to chance.
Yeah, I would say that God's got a lot of stuff on his plate.
So when you pray for my mom, do you go through her whole childhood?
So not as much, but I do mix up. Sometimes I'll do a pre-meal description prayer for your mom, and sometimes it's after the meal where I say, and please also look after.
You know what we didn't talk about?
The cigar?
No.
Oh, yeah.
You did it?
No, it's this weekend.
Oh, wow. So we'll talk about that later?
Yeah, I did go over the, it's so funny.
Can I see it?
Yeah, that's the second time you've asked, and I feel terrible that I should just bring it to work.
Yeah.
But so I was talking with Missy, and
can you not bring it to work because what is she? Are you working at the Apple store? She like weighs you coming in and coming out of the house?
No,
or what?
I could totally do it. I just have to remember to do it. But I went through the strategy with Missy, and it was also kind of funny because I was gone last week, and
we were both gone.
Yeah, which is rare, super rare. But
that's the very last speaking engagement that's been on the books for 3 years. I'm done.
Well, yes, you're done. But I would also say that
when on our morning meeting this morning, when she said she had a bunch of stuff to give me, is that a bunch of speaking engagements?
No.
Okay, good.
But the thing that I do like about the timing of it is that the material that you gave was fresh, inspired by what we've been doing for leadership.
Oh, the leadership content is going to be so fun.
So I think that those nice folks down in New Orleans got an absolute treat of way more than they bargained for.
They were so great.
If you'd done the keynote speech 3 years ago, it would not have been the same that it was today. The whole thing worked out better, in my opinion, and I think it was really good practice. I'm glad you got out there and did it. I'm not going to volunteer you to do it again, just because I think that
it was a blast.
Yeah, but somehow.
Okay, but what were you going to say about?
Oh, I went through how I was going to do it with Missy. And? She's like, oh, that's great. And she's like, I was going to call her last week because I know she was home by herself. She's like, but I couldn't because I knew I was going to let the cat out of the bag and tell her, spoil the secret. So, but I think I've got it all set up. Yeah.
Are you going to have like a flash mob? Jump out of the bushes? Are you going to film it?
That's a great idea. No.
You got to film it.
How?
You just put a phone down somewhere and make sure it's kind of pointed in that direction.
It's California. Somebody will steal it.
Wouldn't that be funny? It gets interrupted by you chasing some guy with your cell phone.
You know, that might be the best engagement video ever. So funny.
Oh.
But yeah, so there's going to be a beach involved. Santa Barbara is going to be involved. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Do we have a race this weekend?
No, that's the third. That's
how's that going?
That's the end of the month. Good.
I had a hard time believing you were going to be a bodybuilder. Then you threw that out the window. Now you're a long distance runner.
So the bodybuilding is still on the table.
No,
I had to change my training.
It was never on the table. It was never on the table. It was never.
So
By the way, I don't think long distance running's on the table either, but
I'm doing it. I have, you know how people like to reach out to me after certain things happen on the episodes and stuff like that. I have never gotten more comments than I have about, like, I'm quoted regularly as saying the victory is or the winning is not in the victory, or whatever the heck I said. And that was possibly and I've said a bunch of stupid stuff, and that was the stupidest thing I've
you
ever
stepped
said.
right into that.
And that's what every email, text, and phone call that I get is like, oh, you really had to
There
you
probably
stepped
couldn't
in
be,
it.
besides trying to justify being late for something, there's probably nothing that would annoy me more than that.
Oh, and you let it be known. But it's so funny how much feedback I've gotten on that. That apparently more people think like you than me.
Well, it's funny.
That the participation ribbon's not a victory, apparently.
It's funny. I had because that makes me think of something. I had a conversation with Eder this morning that I thought was kind of funny because he was telling me about one of his other clients, and he was saying, "Oh, he's like you. He likes to go to bed early." And I was like, "Oh, what's early?" And he goes, "Like 9:30, 10." I go, "No, early is 8. I go to bed at 8." And he's like, "That's too early." He goes, "I go to bed at 11:30, 12. Well, blah, blah, blah. Meanwhile, this is at 5:30 in the morning at the gym, right?
Yeah.
Like, we're talking about it. And I go, "Hey, if you want to know, like, whatever," I go, and this is back to the results type thing, right? I go, "Just who makes more money, me or any of your other clients?" And he goes, because he told me this thing the other day that he's like, "You're the most successful client, kind of, in that way, but I'm also the one that helps him with the weights. I'm also the one that brings him coffee.
Yeah.
Like, I'm also the nicest in a sense, or the most caring, or
Thoughtful. At
genuine,
the very
whatever."
least, thoughtful.
So I said, "Just do me a favor if you want to know. I don't want to argue this with you because it's mind loss for me. But I go, just, okay, who's the most successful?" He goes, "Well, you probably are." And I go, "Okay, well, I go to bed at 8. I go, "That guy, how's he do?" He goes, "Not as good as you, but better than me." And I go, "Okay, well, he goes to bed at 9:30. Like, you could figure it out. You
Right.
don't need me.
There's dots to
Yeah.
connect.
And he goes, and I said, maybe there's something to getting the 8 hours of sleep and being fresh in the morning and not always being tired. Because if you're always tired, like that happens to me, like we went through, well, there was a little period there recently where I just didn't have any sleep because there was so much going on and I had to be here and there. Or even when I came back from New Orleans, that whole next day, I get back. No, I land at like 9 in the morning, and then
You
I
had
got
stuff to do that day.
and a dinner.
Yes.
And so I get up in New Orleans at 2. Well,
it was
so it's
2:30 is when your
4
car got you.
4 in the morning there.
Right.
No, the car got me at 4:30.
Yeah,
So
it was
that's
2:30
2:30
Pacific.
here.
Yep.
So then I come here and I'm up until 9:30, 10 at night. So I mean, I've almost gone, not quite 24 hours, but I've gone way more than I am. I like my sleep. Yeah. So it's just funny.
Yeah, that was interesting. It was also the first in-person interview I've ever missed. We broke our system a little bit, so I don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah, I don't know. It worked.
We had to do it. I think we needed to do it, but I'm glad that we did.
He's talking about us interviewing for, well, that was for coaches, right?
Yeah, but just in general, I think that
we're adding some coaches to our team, and the hiring process is arduous.
Yeah, purposefully.
Yeah, but it's
working.
We can't take shortcuts on our end.
That's right. Our clients are too valuable for that. What should we talk about today?
I have it written down right here so you wouldn't forget. How to eliminate comebacks.
How to eliminate comebacks. Well, the hospitals
only work on healthy people.
Yeah, because a lot of healthy people want surgeries. But yeah, so I'm not sure how exactly you want to start this whole thing, but
well, I kind of have a list. So comebacks are an interesting thing, and this has been around forever. And a lot of times, what happens is people kind of like CSI is they're only addressing comebacks when it becomes a problem, but they don't really have a system. And their system is to react, but they don't really, they leave it to chance and it comes back again. So every once in a while it rears its ugly head in a sense. And there is a system out there for it, right? And so the thing that I've learned over the years is most of the time, believe it or not, comebacks are fixed at the hire.
The hire of the technician?
Yeah. And there's kind of one thing I like to do when I'm interviewing technicians, one little question I like to see. I'm looking more for their mindset and approach to the question, not the answer. The answer is kind of irrelevant.
You'll hear, I think I know the question that you want to ask.
What is
but
it?
It's tell me about a time you had a comeback. Everybody's had one.
Yeah. And so now if I say, well, I don't have comebacks,
They're
what does
lying to you.
Yeah, because who hasn't? It's like the person that says I never lie. Everybody's lied.
Yeah.
Like that's not true. So yeah, like, and so then if so you say like, tell me about a comeback, and then they start to go into what they learned and how they change their process. Now I'm excited about them.
Okay, so process is important to me too. I have a thing with ownership where when they talk about the comeback and what was their role in it.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like internal versus external locus. Like,
yes.
Is it, well, the car, the manufacturer, the advisor didn't give me the right info. I followed the book, whatever. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like,
and then there's something to, there's that ownership, and then the lesson is great. And then I think that there's something to the reaction. Like, is there an implication of that everything stopped except this thing? Right? I think that the best technicians, they are so proud of their work that they like the rest of the world doesn't matter, even if they're working on the best job they've ever gotten in their entire life, but they have a comeback, they stop everything because that thing is really, really important. And I would also say that that a really good technician, they've got some empathy for the customer in their response. I've heard a lot of really good technicians give great answers to that thing.
yeah, it's great. Okay, then the next thing is, so it's the hire is probably the most important part of this.
Great.
And I've tried to do these in order of importance. The next one I have is you got to track it. If you don't have a comeback sheet, you don't have so for me, the comeback sheet is created by the advisor. So whenever there's a comeback, there has to be a comeback sheet. It's not negotiable. If an advisor forgot to do one, I'd send them home. Like it's a big deal, right? Mm-hmm. So a comeback, they're just, usually a yellow or a red piece of paper with a series of steps on it. So who the customer is, who the tech was, what was the original complaint, what happened. And that goes on the RO, on the repair order. Then if we have a shop foreman, the shop foreman's alerted. The shop foreman has to sign off. If we don't have a shop foreman, the manager has to sign off on it. So the tech gets it. Then once they've figured out what it is, they have to come in and tell the advisor and the manager if, that's how I would do it, but it's up to you. And part of all of that is just to make it a big deal. Like in a lot of states, a technician can completely mess something up and you have to pay them to fix their own mess up. So the only way to make that a pain in the ass is to make them explain it, make them think about it,
In the orange or red or the red sheet of shame is a really, really smart way to do it.
Yep.
Because
everybody sees it.
Even if they get paid for it, everybody else notices. And your best techs, like I said, they take pride in their work. It's not fun for them to have that thing on there.
Now, those sheets go in their file. And what happens is a lot of times we leave comebacks to perception. But I don't know how many times I've gone into somebody's file and I'm like, holy cow, they have a lot of comebacks. Like in a year's time, you shouldn't have 5 comebacks. Like,
yeah, if you have one every couple of months, that's a lot.
But you don't, you don't necessarily have the ability to do that math in your head when you're busy and, you have 25, 30 texts. It's hard to track that sort of thing. So I put it in their file. and I can go back and reference that when I'm doing goals with them or they want to raise or whatever it is. The first thing I do is go look at how many comebacks and what they were. So you got to track it. And I look at it as a percentage of the ROs they touch.
Okay.
Right? I look at policy as a percentage of gross. I look at that as a percentage of how many ROs they touch. And so are they 1 in 100? Are they 1 in 200? Are they 1 in 1,000? What is their kind of their ratio for that?
Do you have a number in your head where you think it's reasonable? One in a couple hundred?
Let me do the next two and then we'll come back to that.
Okay.
Because I think that there's another part of this. The next thing is to answer that question is there is a degree of comeback.
Right.
So now we leave the lug nuts loose and a wheel falls off while the customer's driving down a freeway is completely different than a grease fingerprint on the headliner.
Agreed.
So there's a degree of, hey, is our insurance company going to have to get involved? Is somebody's life at stake in this comeback? Or is it, just an attention to detail thing, trim, runability issue, whatever, right? Like, okay, they came in and the stereo wouldn't turn on and then it turned on and now it isn't turning on again. Maybe it's whack-a-mole and, so there's a degree of, like, if a technician doesn't have comebacks and there's a technology issue with the car and even the fact they're doing what the factory's telling us and that just happens sometimes with technology. So I do have a degree of 1 through 10 of how I rate these comebacks. And I will put that on the comeback sheet up in the right-hand corner. This is a 10. Like, you could have killed somebody. This is a 1. It really isn't a comeback.
Right.
This is Ford trying to figure out how their software works.
So now you're developing a scoring system.
But I think it's important because if you just look at the file and you say, well, this guy's got 5 comebacks in the last 2 months, but he's the only guy certified on this stupid thing on,
the intermittent electrical problem that only happens on overcast days. Yeah.
Is it the tech or is it a product issue? And now all of a sudden there's a recall for that. Because that happens sometimes.
For sure. What would you do if there was a case where, would you pull that out of their file if you had a comeback, you did everything you were supposed to do, you followed the line, and then a month later they come out with a recall that's the fix that was not available before? Would you pull that comeback from their file?
Because I have a scoring system, I know that they aren't that big of a deal. I would staple them together and leave it there.
Would you rescore it?
I think I can't remember a time where I didn't score it right from the beginning.
Oh, okay.
Like
you can tell if something's janky or not, basically.
Well, like if it's technology and it's new technology on a new vehicle, I'm grading that with a curve.
Okay.
Like,
well, you've been around,
especially
some crazy
somebody
ones, right?
like, so let's say let's just say, for example, and I think this will make sense to everybody. I got a technician who in his thing has left a drain plug loose. He's left a lug nut loose. And now he has a comeback on an electrical issue. That's not good.
No.
Now, technician B has a comeback on an electrical issue, has a comeback on a radio or something like that.
Yeah. The 10 is obviously the thing that
Well, there's
sticks
2
out.
10s in the other guy.
Yeah.
These are both like 2s or 3s.
Right.
And in the process, you can figure out, did they double check their work? Well, it worked when they left. They followed the process. And you can tell if you really pay attention and ask the right questions, you can tell, like, we should always have an attention to details. You should always check. But if it left there and it was working and now it's not, I'm not going to be so quick to do much more than a 2 or a 1 or whatever.
Yeah.
So everybody's their own individual, and I want to have the whole story, and I don't want to edit the story, but I'm grading on a curve because comebacks come in many forms.
Totally. Yeah, you can't put them in a box at all.
But does that make sense?
It does.
Now,
Makes a lot
I've
of
had
sense.
foremen before that want to tear them up.
Which probably ends up being more personal than it is professional. They don't like somebody, so they tear them up.
No, they do like them.
Physically tear them up.
Like that's not a comeback. It's, BMW and their new blah, blah, blah. And it's like, okay, well, it's fine. Like, I still want to document it.
Yeah.
Just because if you start, here's what I've found working with humans.
All or nothing. That's my guess.
If you start saying, oh, well, you don't have to put it on this one, or you don't, oh, that doesn't apply here, then all of a sudden everybody's they're making it up as they feel, however they feel that day. They watched a sad movie last night and they feel like all this empathy, and so they don't put the sheet on there, right? So,
you know where that's the most evident?
Where?
That little rule that you just did is MPIs.
For
the
sure.
second you make an exception on whether or not a car has to be inspected.
Oh, it was my cousin's car.
Yep. So I always make the connection, and this is the same thing. I think with the comeback thing, you're right on it. You have to be really consistent with it. But MPI wise, right? So there'd always be the tech that's like, I didn't do an inspection on that because it was just here yesterday. A lot can happen in 24 hours with a car.
Just think about this. When I was a service advisor, do you know how many times an advisor was off like a day or two later and the customer came back and I wrote up the car and I had my techs inspect it?
And it was night and day.
Night and day.
Yeah.
And then I would sell the work. And then the advisor would come back and say, well, that should be in my number or whatever. And you're like, get out of here.
Yeah.
You're out of your mind.
Go home. Again.
You don't.
Right.
Okay.
What else you got on your list? I've got
Murder
a whole
line.
different list.
Murder line.
This is great. Okay.
3 comebacks in 90 days.
Regardless of the score?
Hasta la vista.
Oh, my.
Vaya con Dios.
3 and 90. So 1 a month for 3 months. It's over.
You can adjust that up or down. Like, I don't know. Brands matter. Whatever. But you have to have a murder line. There has to be, like, comebacks cannot be the culture.
Yeah. You could do a
They need to be a 4-alarm fire.
Right. You could do a point system too, the way that you've done it.
Yeah. You could.
So more than 17 points in 90 days or something like that, it's over. That's great. I love that point system thing.
And then a culture. Your culture has to be that you overreact when there's a comeback. You overreact by putting the sheet on there. You overreact by telling everybody, the manager, the shop foreman, everybody knows, we got a comeback for Christian. He has a comeback. What's going on with that comeback? It goes to the front of the line. Parts knows, get the part now. Like, this isn't a 2-week, if come maybe we'll put it on the stock. No, now, like now. Everything is now. And how you approach that and how important it is will determine what your culture is. If you don't overreact and it's not a 4-alarm fire, then they're going to keep happening.
That's right. It's got to be a big deal. Okay, I love that. So I approach this topic from the advisor standpoint. I love that you approached it from the technician standpoint. So
here's what I would like to say.
Yes.
You can't trust any of them.
Whether it's the tech or the advisor.
When it comes to comebacks, you can't.
Everyone's got to be involved and everyone's responsible for it. So what you just described is exactly how I start off every comeback is, I don't know if you've ever heard me say this before, a gold nugget of crap. Now you think back.
It's some hillbilly stuff.
Totally. But you think back to like your 5 or 6 most loyal customers. How many of those started off as like a shaky situation that you fixed? Like your best customers, don't they always come from crap?
For sure.
Always. So anytime you get a comeback, it's an opportunity to get that lifelong, go to your wedding kind of customer. And so if you approach your comebacks there first, then it's more important. I also have a belief that comebacks can almost, not 100%, but almost completely be fixed by the advisor. And I'm going to give you 2 reasons for that. One is I would say that roughly half of the comebacks that exist happen because of lazy or sloppy write-ups, We don't get good descriptions from the customers. We don't actually collect the information about what's going on. We say noise from rear of car. And then a technician's stuck trying to dissect what the heck noise from rear of car means, and they spend an hour and a half working on it. They get naturally and understandably frustrated, and then it leads them into just trying to throw a part on a car just to make somebody happy, which then becomes a comeback. So I think that the advisor plays an important role in minimizing comebacks for the shop. Now, a technician, if they diagnose an evap gross leak as a gas cap, but they never pressure tested the system, and then they find out that there was a canister leak, that's a comeback that's technician related. However, I would also say that a service advisor can help the technician and cover their back by doing a really good quality QC step. So the advisor still has a lot of responsibility in that. So approach it as when it does happen, if you do it right, it's more positive than negative. The second thing is that you have to own your responsibility in a comeback when you're writing up the ticket. And then if we did a really good job of quality control, where we look over a car before we let a customer know that it's done, we make sure the little stuff, like most comebacks are little things. They're oil change stickers, they're maintenance reminders, they're fingerprints, the seat not being where it's supposed to be, the radio station not sounding the way it's supposed to sound. Like those little things are completely avoidable. So you get that off the list, and then the comeback that you have stands out a little bit more if it doesn't happen every day. To your point, murder line, all that other stuff. So I think about it as an advisor, your responsibility is to minimize the comebacks just as much as it is the technician's responsibility.
It's great.
So that's how I kind of thought about comebacks. But man, you gotta approach it as that's you're building a lifelong customer if you fix their problem.
Yeah, I would say one thing in closing too is like the way you approach this and what you accept is going to determine the outcome, right? So if you have an advisor can go get the tech in the shop, bring them up to the drive, and they can look at it in the drive without creating an RO, like
all that
without
stuff.
the red sheet, all that, it all matters. And I also would say that I've seen more times than not, when you start tracking comebacks and you start having real heart-to-heart conversations, that if you coach the technicians, they do get better. Like they can develop an attention to detail. They can get better, but only in an environment where it's important. And if you don't make it important and there aren't consequences, it's like California, like it's lawless.
It's insane.
Yeah. And people are stealing cars and breaking into houses, and
who knows what else.
Who knows?
Stealing wedding cell phone videos or engagement cell phone videos, all that stuff.
Would you rather have them steal a ring or the cell phone?
Cell phone.
Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time on Service Job Revolution. Thanks so much for watching this episode of Service Job Revolution. We're uploading new stuff every day, so make sure you subscribe and click the bell icon so you don't miss out. If you have a question you'd like us to answer on the show, call 8333-ASK-SDR and we'll answer your question on the show. That's 8333-ASK-SDR. For special deals on our books and training, head over to offers.chriscollinsinc.com. Now that's offers.chriscollinsinc.com. I'm Chris Collins, and I'll see you in the next video.